What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
What's good with y'all?
What's good, man? What's good?
Everybody had a great Thanksgiving, man?
Yeah,
It was
man,
pretty
it was
good.
pretty good.
Well, shit, Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving. There's a lot that happened this past week. A lot that happened this past week in the NFL. Obviously, in the NBA side of things, we finally got a full bracket finalized in the NBA Cup, and we'll get into that as well as some NBA news that we needed to get into. That I think it's prime time to talk a little bit about some Joel Embiid and the 76ers and the fall of some of these supposed top teams in the league. But with that being said, biggest news. Well, I don't know if it's the biggest news. I mean, because there's been a lot of shit that's happened. From Chicago, we've got another coach change in Matt Eberflus finally being fired and relieved of his duties as a head coach there. What did you guys think when you heard that? Obviously, after the game Thursday against Detroit, that was the first game of the day on Thanksgiving. Everybody saw the blunder at the end. So how'd you guys feel Friday when he got released following his interview that day?
I mean, I feel like this is one of the more this is one of the firings that wasn't surprising, like one of the most unsurprising firings. Like as soon as the blunder that you're talking about on Thursday, as soon as that happened, and then he had the interview that happened right after saying that he wouldn't change what he did, I'm pretty sure everybody's mind was like, yeah, you gotta go. Like that didn't even make any sense for you to say that. You could easily say, that was a mistake on my part, and I don't know if you want to go ahead and just explain what the blunder was.
Yeah, so I mean, we could get into that. So really, it was a lot of blunders. So obviously, what were the Lions up? What 16-0 against the Bears? Bears ended up fighting back in the game, making it a game. The game ends up being 23-20. But the Bears did have the ball last drive of the game. Were driving down. I mean, they got hit with penalties, sacks, and then ultimately on the final two plays of the game, Caleb Williams took a sack. The Bears had a timeout left with about 30 to 40 seconds left.
32 seconds.
32 seconds left. They obviously Caleb takes the sack and they don't call a timeout immediately. And then Caleb, based on what we heard, may have checked out of the play that was called. That ended up leading to time being ran continuously. By the time the ball was snapped, it was under 5 seconds to catch the ball, and it was game over. Just for context of what we're talking about here. So go ahead and continue.
Yeah. So then after that, everybody from the outside looking in easily look, man, this is a rookie quarterback. Like this ain't his first time fucking something up at a critical point of the game. Like you have to be a head coach and call the timeout, wherever the case may be. He doubled down and said, he felt like, I wouldn't change anything. It's like, seriously? You wouldn't change shit. So I mean, it was writings on the wall. I didn't think he was gonna be back next year anyway. But that was terrible by him. It's unfortunate, but again, not really shocking. You already got rid of the offensive coordinator. He wasn't part of the offense to begin with, and you just let this happen. And so it was about time for him to get up out of there.
Yeah, it was about time. We've been talking about it last few weeks, ever since the Hail Mary, really. The writing has been on the wall. He was on our hot seat. I think he was on my hot seat. He lasted a couple more weeks, probably more than he should have, especially after firing like Shane Waldron. Yeah, you're cycling through offensive coordinators. He's a good defensive mind, but it seems like as a head coach, he didn't really know what the hell he was doing. As far as that play or that sequence, I guess. Yeah, when Caleb got sacked at 32 seconds, and he's sitting here, and it seems like he's doing this. So he's calling some kind of audible. He's like, hurry up, get to the line so we can run this play. They were lined up at 17, 16 seconds and didn't snap the ball until 6 seconds. In that time, when you realize that your quarterback really don't know what the fuck he's doing out there, you got to call the timeout. I get the thought process of having the whole field available to you and then call a timeout after that play. But you're sitting there wasting 20, 25 seconds, and it's like, dude, you can't end this game with holding on to a timeout when all you needed was 3 to send that shit to overtime.
And in my opinion, he could have called a timeout immediately after he got sacked. And
he could have.
Your job on the sideline would have been like, look, you have 30 seconds, so you still basically got the whole field if you get the first down. If you don't get the first down, he don't get out of bounds, you need to have your kicker team ready. Like, we're going to go kick this.
Yep.
As soon as the play, because if he get the first down, obviously spike the ball. If you don't get the first down, but he's inbound somehow, kicker team go out there. We're going to kick a field goal. It was plenty of options then to let him change the play at 15 seconds and still watch him do it. And it's like
when Caleb came out and said that he changed the play, I'm like, whoa. What the fuck
I don't know why he changed the play, but I did think there was, obviously he's had a lot of game management blunders this year, and really his record in close games wasn't great at all. Obviously that's given they weren't great the past couple of years with Justin Fields. But I did think that there needed to be a little bit more criticism on Caleb's end, because while he is a rookie, that is still like, that is game management on the quarterback side that you would like to see him do as well. But that is part of his maturation, into the season and stuff like that. So, it was tough, given he was always kind of due to be a lame duck coach. That's kind of how it happens when you've been bad a couple seasons. You in a place where you need a quarterback. You obviously had the first overall draft pick, not due to record per se, but that was an opportunity for a reset. So the biggest thing he had to do was nail the hire as an offensive coordinator. And step one, he didn't do that. So from there, it was always going to be, you had to be elite. You couldn't. You were good on your side, but you had to be elite in game management at the very least, and definitely had to be elite in terms of, or at least better in terms of what's seeming, based on some of the reports that we've heard, your accountability, your communication with your team, because it did seem like obviously there was some reports that their cornerback Jalen Johnson had some words with him after the game, and he just kind of like, maybe he doesn't do well with conflict, management, and just kind of dipped on him. And there clearly have been time, Keenan Allen has said some things over the few weeks, all of the players, DJ Moore, have kind of had their little, words here and there. Kyler Gordon, when asked about some of the things that was going on, he just left it at no comment. So it's just like, you could see he lost locker room.
Yeah.
So, another opening in the NFL. It is interesting to see the different, kind of the parallels between, because they did get that first overall draft pick from the Panthers. And given, not to say that Caleb was playing like how Bryce was, but given similar situations, they had, obviously it was a little bit different with Frank Reich. People thought it was going to be a little bit better than that. But, having that head coach be fired back-to-back seasons for the first overall draft pick, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects Caleb moving forward.
For sure. And for Eberflus, I think, like Salah, he'll land on his feet somewhere. He'll go back to being a DC somewhere.
Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas seems like a good spot. So I just think he's just the head coach. That position has beat his ass over these last 3 years. So it is what it is. It happens.
And you brought up a good point I didn't think about. But yeah, man, if he would have just. That was the one thing he needed to do, was nail the OC hiring, and you hire somebody that wasn't good. Like, if you would have, I'm not saying Cliff Kingsbury or even Kellen Moore, something just a better coordinator would have probably saved your job at the least bit, possibly,
and even with Thomas Brown, who's now taken over both the offensive coordinator, head coaching position. He said today that they lost 22 pounds since November 12th, just due to
stress.
I guess maybe the stress and having to focus more time, because when the thing that's not talked about enough, when you do fire coaches and you do have in-season firings, a lot of reasons why organizations don't like to do it, and Chicago has been an organization that has historically, the first time they've ever had an in-season hire or a firing, and the reason is because it becomes a skeleton crew. Everybody has to start picking up extra duties, extra stuff. And now, for him, he has to pick up head coaching duties, as well as be the play caller, offensive coordinator, that, stuff that just has been introduced, like I said, since November 12th. That's a month. It's not even been a month.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy. And that's why I'm saying it's going to be interesting because, people thought that when Frank Reich got fired, maybe things will be a little different last year. And, it immediately tanked, like even worse. So just with the added pressure, the added stress, it's going to be interesting. But do you guys think that this is out of the openings now? Because what do we have? The Saints. I guess we could put the Jaguars, Bears. What else? Who else am I missing? Jets.
Yeah, Jets.
I'm missing somebody else.
Are you?
No, that might be it. So. What do you guys think would? Yeah, for now. What did you guys think would be the best? Do you guys think that would be the best opening, given the rest of the options?
I mean, you kind of have to say that. I mean, at that point, you have for sure the quarterback. I guess you could say quarterback of the future. I mean, they just drafted him. You go to Saints. You still have their cap issues. Plus, do you really want to hinge your wagon on Derek Carr? Now you got to figure out what you're gonna do with that situation. And same thing with with that dumpster fire in New York. Like, I wouldn't want to go there. I mean, it's too much shit going on there for you to like. It'll be a lot of change you would have to make New York work for you. So I mean, in my opinion, Chicago is for sure the better option at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I don't even think it's close. I mean, we'll see what happens with the rest of. We'll see what happens with the Giants, Cowboys, Raiders, Bengals. We'll see what happens with those teams. But as of right now, definitely, you have Caleb. Is the talent is there. He's highly touted, recruit coming out. So, I mean, anybody would kind of chomp at the bit to get their hands on it, pause, to work with him. But yeah, you have your number one receiver there. You got to figure out what to do with Keenan Allen. Work with Ryan Poles is staying. That's the big thing. Like, the GM is staying, and I know that's
for now.
For now, they came out and said that he's still going to be the GM of this team. So going into this next cycle, this next draft cycle, he's going to be the guy leading this. It's important to find his right hire. It's important. Like, people are saying, oh, go get an offensive mind. To be a head coach, to pair with Caleb. And I mean, I get that in theory, but I don't think it's necessary. You know what I mean? Like, we could talk about that too, but like, you can go with the offensive mind, or you can go with the leader of men that might not necessarily be an offensive coach, which usually is not, honestly. And I think you go with that over the offensive mind. I just think that team just needs a complete reset on the kind of culture there, in a way.
And honestly, I'm not 100% sure, because I honestly might go with the Jets, because they're due to have a bad record. Even if Aaron Rodgers does stay, maybe you try to bank on, maybe he takes just a year removed from the Achilles. Maybe he's a little better, maybe a little bit more mobile. Maybe I would still try to take a quarterback. And then you do have, in my opinion, you kind of have the better receiving core. Because right now, Rome Odunze has had some good moments. I don't know. We've seen Malik Neighbors make noise with bad quarterback play. And Caleb has been better than what's been there. We've seen Marvin Harrison from time to time, even though Kyler Murray, I had him on Hot Seat Watch earlier in the year, and it's looking like he might need to stay on Hot Seat Watch for real. But, we've seen rookie receivers make plays. So, some
BTJ.
people have. Him for sure.
He's balling.
And we'll definitely get into this a little bit later, but it does, it has had some people saying a lot of people have been chomping at the bit about Michael Penix, given Polk, Grubbs in Seattle hasn't been great. Rome Odunze hasn't necessarily. He had a huge game against the Colts, but he hasn't had another really, really big game. So we'll get into that later, but that'll be interesting. But there's a lot of shit that's happened this weekend.
A lot.
What do you guys think about Aziz Alshire, man? We saw, to get into the context of it, Trevor Lawrence was scrambling out of the pocket, going for a slide, and Azeez Al-Shire hit him while he was sliding, kind of led with the elbow. Some people are saying it's a late slide. Some people saying he should know, but he ended up getting suspended for 3 games. His rule, he did try to appeal the suspension, but it got upheld about an hour ago. But there's been a lot of talk about it. So let's talk about it. What do you guys think?
I mean, he got the 3 games because of his history, correct?
They came out and ripped him, man. Like that whatever they put out, kind of explaining why they chose that decision. They ripped him to shreds on that shit. It's because of all that disrespect for the game, prior, incidents. He got fined just a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
so yeah.
I mean, well, I guess the suspension is warranted. Then, I mean, they usually do that. Like, back then, I don't know if he didn't get. I wouldn't say he got suspended a lot, but he got fined hell of a lot. Vontez Burfict, he got fined all the fucking time for the shit he was doing. But I mean, it's a tough situation because, like Shai said, I looked at the play again, and yes, I wouldn't even say the idea of him sliding was late, but he did what most people try to tell you to do: don't lead with the helmet, lead with your shoulder, lead with your arm, or whatever the case may be. And I feel like it's like one of them bang bang situations where, if he was like clearly, like, I'm talking about spearing, like helmet to helmet type shit, okay, sure. But that shit tough for a defender because you're taught that, if quarterback want to run, you gotta give him punch, you gotta give him reason not to want to do that shit again. Like, no, stay your ass in the pocket. Like, that's what we've been taught as defenders. You gotta give him a reason not want to move or not want to get out the pocket. But I don't know. If you see somebody attempting to slide, I guess you just gotta assume he's gonna slide, so you just can't even do shit. But it was bang bang to me.
Excuse me.
Sure, maybe he could have let up a little, but nah, I can't justify that.
It's tough. We know it's the quarterback's league, so I'm not surprised at the suspension that came from it. Honestly, I think the worst part in all of this, like, okay, he didn't lead with the helmet, but he has a metal brace on his arm that he led with, and that's just as dangerous as the helmet. Like, it really, in some ways, even worse. So it's like
he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I think like it was tough for Trevor. Of course, like, he got knocked out of that game. He did the posturing, so automatic concussion. He's out for the season now. They just announced that he's going to have his shoulder surgery. So maybe, I don't want to say it's a good thing, but it's not the worst thing for Trevor to just take it easy, get his surgery,
he's not
get back right.
a situation where it's like, no, this is serious. Like, as far as the amount of times Tua has.
That's actually what I was going to lead with, because I do think that he is, because of the fencing position that he was in.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that is really what has led to so much conversation about Tua, is because not only has he had his concussions, but the fencing, specifically the fencing position that he gets into when he's had the concussions, and that's been seen multiple times. So that is going to be interesting to see how people start to, kind of cover and talk about that moving forward as we get into next year. Obviously, as you said, he's going to be out for the season. And, as we just were talking about first overall draft picks, it is interesting because Trevor has been piling up injuries the past couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is also going to be interesting to see how he, is that going to be something that affects him for the rest of his career? Because, he has not been great. He had a stretch, but he hasn't been great. And with all these injuries starting to pile up, shoulder surgery, is that going to start being, are we going to start seeing a heavy effect on that? But I thought it was dirty. He knew what he was doing. I do think it is tough, because I do think that Trevor kind of did slide a little late, but he was trying to get the first down as well. It is kind of tough. And sometimes, you got to kind of, take that hit. You are a big quarterback. It's not like Trevor's a little dude. Or even try to get out of bounds, in my opinion there. But I do still think it was a little dirty. The thing that I don't like is DeMeco. I understand he was trying to go to bat.
He made it worse, for sure.
DeMeco and Nick Caserio, like, bruh, stop the bullshit. Don't, like, it's okay to have your players back while also acknowledging like, hey, we probably don't want that. But even if he wanted to explain and say like, hey, the quarterback does have to, it's on the quarterback as well to protect himself, that is still fine and acceptable. It was just the way they were kind of explaining it. And then Nick Caserio coming out and like, angrily kind of blasting the NFL. It's like, bro, nah, like you need to talk to your mans because he's been bullshit. I mean, he's had bullshit all season.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to talk to him. Like, what? Don't do that. Maybe he shouldn't have got 3 games. Maybe you could say it should have been 1 or 2. But it's like, and it's Houston's on hot seat watch, man. Like big time, in my opinion. Like this, it's not. They won, of course. It wasn't great. Mac Jones almost, pulled it out, and most of their wins all season haven't been great. But you're starting to I feel like starting to see the cracks. Like, this is really the first time that we're really kind of seeing like a slippage. I feel like in DeMeco Ryans. And normally his press conferences are perfect. We're seeing slippage obviously in CJ Stroud in his play. We've seen slippage in terms of his frustration. So, I mean, they got to get it together there because they're in a position. They're still in a great position. Obviously, they're in a bad division. They don't really have anybody right now that's super pressing. But next year, shit is going to change because we don't know if Stefan's going to be there. We don't know what Joe Mixon's going to look like, how the offensive line's going to look like. So we're starting to see a little slippage there. But they need to tighten up. Niggas need to tighten up. But aside from that, man, what did y'all think about the rest of the games and the rest of the week?
I mean, a lot of selling going on still. Raiders, for instance. I mean, shit. That was not saying they would have won. They would have won. Not saying nothing like that. But I mean, just to have the game in, and I mean, the quarterback, he played pretty well that game for the circumstances, and for that to end like that, tough to see. Bengals, I mean, what can you say about them? Their defense is just, I don't think I ever seen nothing like it. Like to be putting up 30-something points in losses multiple times in a season. So I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know where they go from here for that organization in general. Like I mean, that's probably one of the interesting outcomes at the end of the season to see what the Bengals is going to do.
It's gonna be interesting. I hope they show a little bit more of the ends because I watched the Hard Knocks episode earlier today, and kind of their thoughts going and being 4-7 going into this Pittsburgh game. But I'm interested to see how the mood is around that team. Going forward for the rest of the season, it's not looking good at all. And they do have still losable games, so you could end up. They only got 4 wins. They can end up with a top 10 draft pick as well. But it's like that's not what you signed up for. That's not what you're paying Joe Burrow all this money. That's not what you're going to pay Jamar all this money for. So you still got a decision to make with T. Higgins. What you gonna do with Trey? What you gonna do? Yeah, so what you gonna do with the DC Lou Anarumo, who was on my hot seat earlier this season, and it got better for a week, I think, and then it just went back downhill. A lot of questions with them. I think Sunday it was a pretty cool day. It was 9 1-score games. And that's not counting the Broncos-Browns game, which was today. It was 9-point game, but it was basically a 1-score game throughout. That was a hell of a game on Monday night. So it was cool to see that many close games. I got to do it. I got to talk about Kirk. Like, I know we're previewing it later. His return to Minnesota, but goodness gracious, he was on my hot seat last week. And it played out exactly how I thought it would. Honestly, it really did. Those last 2 weeks before this game were shit, and this game was worse than that. It might have been the worst game of his career. Not even gonna lie. And I mean, we can talk about it all season. The lack of mobility is okay, one thing, but every Sunday, I tell you what, I shit you not, people listening. Every Sunday, Shad puts in our chat, Kurt's flirting with that pick six. Kurt's flirting with that pick six. And that shit happened in the worst way possible, because it was only a 4-point game. We were actually leading at that time when he threw it. It was the worst time to throw a pick six. And of course he threw it. It looks a lot like that arm is shot, especially when throwing up numbers. We saw it in the Pittsburgh game, in the first game of the season, that had everybody worried. It's just not looking good for Kurt. And I said the noise would get loud, and it's really that loud now. Like, everybody's talking about it. Even Matt Ryan's talking about it. Michael Vick's talking about it. It's like, this is what you signed up for? I get it. But damn, Kurt, you got to be better than this as a veteran. Like, 4 picks, a couple of those were just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what?
Yeah, some of them. One of them ones he pump faked and then stood through it. It was
it was like, come on, man. You letting him know what you're gonna do. Yeah, he jumped the shit out of that. It was a real bad performance, especially after, because Chris, like I said, that Broncos game was the worst defense I ever seen played, and they came back, and I get the Chargers don't have their weapons, and they were without J.K. But it was a damn good defensive performance, and you wasted it. You cannot waste.
It's one of our better performances of the year, for sure.
We doubled up ourselves. We went into that game with 10 sacks, and we got 5 in one game. We literally got half of our total season sacks in one game. You wasted that performance, and that's literally because of the quarterback. Like, it's no other way to shake it. Like, Kirk lost that game, and it's not often you see just one player really lose the game, and you could point to, like, of course, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is not why we lost the game. Like, it was a lot of, Kirk lost that game. It just is what it is. And the play calling was a little suspect. I get it, but when you throw a pick when you throw a pick inside the 10-yard line, where you could have went down by 1, and then Koo, don't get me started on that. I'm not even gonna get into Koo, but yeah, that was rough. That was a rough game to watch. I found myself laughing just to not get him mad. I'm just sitting here like, I can't even believe this shit is happening.
Yeah, I think that pick he threw in the end zone was probably the worst, because it wasn't necessary. It was like, bro,
they don't even know where he was. Nobody knew where he was.
Like,
going
where were you throwing? Like, were you trying to throw it out of bounds? That's one of those plays. Like, did you think you didn't have enough arm? Like you said, arm might be shot, because it's like you tried to, just get rid of it in the back of the end zone, but you didn't try.
He said he was trying to throw a jump ball, but he misjudged where to throw the ball. Dude, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, what kind of explanation is that? If you're gonna throw a jump ball, throw a jump ball out to Kyle Pitts, who's 1-on-1 on the outside. Just fuck it. If you want to throw a jump ball, don't throw it to the middle of the field. I get Drake is in there, Darnell is in there, but it's also 4 Chargers defenders in there. It's like, that's not shit you want to see from a 13-year veteran. It makes 0 sense what the fuck he was doing. It's disappointing. So the Falcons sit at 6-6. They were 6-6 at this point last year, with quote unquote worst quarterback play. But Kirk is leading the league in interceptions. I talked about it last week. He's leading the league in fumbles. This is not what we brought you in for. This is the shit that was happening with the old quarterbacks we had, as far as the interceptions, turnovers in the red zone, and you're doing the same shit. So, like, what is it? It's like, it's disheartening, but that's the life of a Falcons fan, I guess.
I mean, it is to say. I mean, you say that you say it's not something that you want from a 13-year veteran, but you also have to understand who the veteran is, and this is who Kirk Cousins is and has been.
True. And that's why
I don't think it's the
Kirk
arm, but I do
piss people off.
I don't know. The Falcons do have him throwing a lot of out routes, which is really, I mean, he does do it well, and it has benefited them. I mean, we saw that's what killed, not necessarily an out route, but the corners routes killed the Eagles on that last drive with Darnell Mooney, and some of the things that really, that's kind of where he's been his bread and butter the entire season. Well, maybe not as of late, but I have found that pretty interesting because that's kind of those throws that you need a little bit more of the arm there. So I found it interesting it's really like a staple of the Falcons offense. That's really like, if it's 3rd and 3, 4th and 1, they're going to run it out. Like, I don't know
Darnell
why.
Drake,
I don't understand how it gets open. It's the exact same play every single time, exact same concept every single time. I do not understand it, but Like you mentioned, it was a lot of close games, and that's why I'm so frustrated with Kyler Murray, because it's like, bro, like the last couple games, it's you had the opportunity, and
they had that game.
You just keep and it's not all on Kyler, obviously, but you have these leads. You kind of expect your quarterback to the offense and your quarterback to bring it home. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I did say that the Jets could possibly be one of the better jobs, just given the talent that they do have, because I do think that they do have a little bit more talent than the Bears. I think that everybody, especially Keenan Allen, is not what he was. Obviously their offensive line isn't great. The D line, some people are trying to say Montez Sweat is dominant. I don't think he's dominant at all. I think he's good, but I think they have an elite cornerback. Safety is getting a little bit up there in age with Kevin Byard, but I don't necessarily. I think they still need a lot more talent there. The Jets, I think they're a little bit more stout across, but they obviously need some coaching and leadership there.
The Seahawks did everything they could to lose
the game. I mean, and the Jets still lost, and the Jets still, it's like that 20, 21, 22, aside from against the Colts for some reason. That 21 point is like after that, it's
that threshold.
You can't get anything else, and it's crazy. It was good to see, obviously, in a bad game from the Colts, Anthony Richardson once again go and drive down. And, you saw the excitement from the team. Even had Zaire Franklin. I saw a clip from his podcast that I don't know if it's dropped today or tomorrow, whatever. But he straight up said, if you would have said a month ago, Anthony Richardson was the best player on the Colts, like all Colts fans would be happy. And he straight up said, Anthony Richardson is the best player on our team. So, that's a good sign for him, even in a bad game from them defensively. And really, I was a little slow offensively. Talked about the Jaguars. I mean, shit. Titans, we talked about it, thought they were, we thought. we thought. But, obviously the biggest game, I think the biggest game of the week was the Eagles in Baltimore. And, you talked about Koo, but it is interesting to see the fall and drop off of Justin Tucker as well. Because, I mean, that really changed the game. He makes some of those field goals. He makes probably his first field goal. I think when he missed his first two.
He made the first one. He missed.
He made the first
then
one.
He missed the extra
missed
point.
The next two.
He missed the extra point. Then he missed the next two. No.
Yeah.
He made one right before halftime. Then he missed two in the third.
Yeah, and I mean the Ravens obviously got off to a hot start, and even and that kind of change, started slowly changing everything, and then from there the Eagles, which it's seemingly kind of been how their season's gone, slow starts, and then they kind of dominated from there. Ravens obviously had a little weak ass drive at the end to make it closer than it.
Yeah,
it was a close game, but they made it a little. They made it a little bit closer than it was. So that was good to see continuing the Eagles kind of, continue their resurgence of the season. And Saquon, once again, man. I'm very, fuck Saquon. I'm very upset that we're not getting, that Nick Sirianni is not getting the respect that
he's not,
because everybody has been coming at that man's neck for him to have been. I mean, if we really want to keep it a bean, he's been a top 5 coach in the league since he's been in the league.
Since he's been in the league,
terms of winning,
he's a 44-19 with a 79 win percentage.
And who I maybe Andy Reid's maybe the only one better, and it might be like a game or two.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, for everything, for him to consistently get criticism for even through, I mean, we talk about the Eagles last season. Even, I told you guys we should have been talking about the Cowboys like we were talking about the Eagles. I'm gonna hold that down. They talked so much about the Eagles last year and how they were in a funk or whatever and are having so much turmoil. Nick Sirianni deserves to be fired. Bill Belichick, blah, blah, blah. For the man to come in, might possibly have an MVP, might even possibly be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Again, it's like, bro, like,
it's impressive.
Show the man some fucking respect.
It's impressive.
He's from Indy, so I'm like, bro, you gotta give my boy some respect. Like, who cares if he talks back to some fucking fans? Like, that shit's cool. I think that shit's cool. Everybody's like, oh, that's bullshit. You want to talk shit? I'm gonna talk shit back. What? Like, I don't want to. It's so many people that want to talk shit, and then when you say something back, they want to be, oh, that's bullshit. They'll talk down, they'll talk so dirty about you in the media. As soon as you say something, oh, he's weak minded, he can't control it. Hey, bro, you were just saying everything about me, but this calling my mama bitch, something crazy. Like you were saying everything in the sun about me. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So Nick Sirianni, my boy, deserves some respect, and I'm standing on it.
I agree with you, and I think it's the most impressive part is how does last season ended, and we all saw it like that. That losing streak was ridiculous. What happened against Tampa Bay in the playoffs was even more ridiculous. But to bounce back from it, we went into this season talking about how important these the coordinator hires are for him, and it was talk like it was a little bit heat, but it seems like he got those right. He righted the ship. Gus Bradley's defense is,
Vic Fangio.
Vic Fangio. My bad
Definitely not Gus.
My bad shot. Vic Fangio's defense is turned around a little earlier in the season. It was like, okay, ain't looking too right. But these last 6-7 weeks, it's been really solid. Shout out to Nick Sirianni for righting the ship. They seem to be a force, and that what they did to Baltimore was very impressive. Very impressive. On the road.
I did see something that was kind of interesting to me, and that kind of called into question. They said both, I've said my things about Lamar over the past couple of years, but one of the things that was interesting is they said, a lot of people in Baltimore, I don't know if y'all know, but a lot of Baltimore fans are not huge John Harbaugh fans. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I peeped that.
It's not really talked about too much in the media. They like him, but they would be happy to get rid of him as well. But somebody was kind of like, actually, it started with Himbo that's on Get Up and ESPN. He had a podcast just talking about how Lamar and Lamar, I guess, they kind of struggle coming up with answers in game management. And given the conversation we talked about with Eberflus, I do find that interesting because I don't necessarily think that is on Lamar. But, I mean, you could say if you want to. I mean, I'm not going to, whatever. You don't know who it's truly on because we're not in the locker room. But I do find that interesting because, John Harbaugh that's really kind of what it came down to when it came to Andy Reid is just the Ravens kind of beat themselves. It wasn't that the Chiefs weren't better than the Ravens. They weren't. We can be honest about it. They weren't better than the Ravens last year. But the Chiefs didn't beat themselves and the Ravens did. And that came down to a lot of the game management by both Lamar and then some of the things that, that they, I guess, whatever the game plan that they had from John Harbaugh's side as well. Same thing. The Raiders game earlier in the season beat themselves. Yeah. The Chiefs game even beat themselves. The Steelers game beat themselves. Every game that they lose, I mean, the Eagles obviously played really well as well, but even this game with the missed field goals, what are their point differential is what, that's a stat that keeps going around. Point differential is what of all their losses is 22 points.
22 points, and he missed 22 points.
And Justin Tucker's missed 22 points worth of field goals. So, that is going to be interesting. So I am interested to see if people will start talking about John Harbaugh being put on the hot seat at the end of the season, depending on how things go. So I'm interested to see how that goes moving forward.
But the thing about that, and it's funny because you see it a lot, but for whatever reason, the Eagles didn't do it the same way. But, when coaches get a Super Bowl, they kind of like, ascend to a level of like being untouchable in a sense. So that's why I feels like, most people wouldn't, like you said, that's a thing that most people probably wouldn't know, that Ravens fans don't really want him. But he's so guarded and lauded as a great coach.
Super Bowl winning coach.
Right, because he won the Super Bowl. That'll be interesting though.
And Lamar saved his job, honestly. I mean, he was on the hot seat before. I mean, that's truly why they switched to Lamar when they did, because he was about to go down, and Lamar saved his job.
That is very true. That's why he said on Hard Knocks, like every time I know Lamar's in there eating breakfast, I smile a little bit. I'm like, I bet you do. I bet you do.
And that's not to say that he is a bad coach, because the team. And then people also just basically said, like, look, if you think about it, the Ravens kind of win one way. They blow you out or they get up on you pretty quick, and then you might come back like make it a little bit closer. But that is a lot of how, especially the past couple of years, that is a lot of how their wins have gone. So I'm interested to see how that goes moving forward.
And then you got that situation right now with Deontay Johnson. That so came out today that he got suspended for a game. He's suspended for a game for next game or after the bye, I guess. And it's because he refused to go in. You can say that's because of lack of targets. We don't know the exact story there, but he has not been a factor since he has been traded there. I know he was having a good season. This is contract year, so it's very important for him. He was having a really good season in Carolina, and to go there and not be a factor at all, I can get how that can get to, especially Deontay Johnson, who has a history of these kind of antics as we saw in Pittsburgh. It's a high possibility they end up releasing him after this bye week, and it's a little bit. It's not. The vibes aren't the best right now in Baltimore as a whole. And to be, what are they now? 8-5? Are they 8-5? Mm-hmm. You're staring at a wild card spot. You want to be. I don't know. It might be a little rough for Baltimore going to the playoffs.
I honestly don't think they're staring at a wild card spot. Pittsburgh's schedule is it ain't, because what do they play? The Eagles. They still got to play the Chiefs. They got to play the Ravens again. They got to play the Bengals again. I think. Steelers' schedule ain't no. It ain't what they got to play the Browns this week too. So I mean, it's who they already lost to. So I don't know. We'll see, because it's not like the Ravens' schedule is easy either. But
whoever wins that Baltimore Pittsburgh game in week 16.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the game for sure.
Steelers got Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, and then Bengals.
So I mean,
Browns,
I could honestly see the Steelers. I'm still very, very much on the train that the Steelers could lose all those games, honestly. What I will say, it was really, really fantastic to see Russell this past week. Everything about it, even his play, I've seen some Hard Knocks has come out with some clips, some different things. This kind of seems like he has, some of the clips that's come out, it seems like he has gotten off of the I am superstar Russell or whatever Sean Payton was saying he needs to stop trying to kiss babies or whatever the fuck it was. Some of the stuff that I saw, that was like, okay, this is human. This is a human, not a robot, in my opinion. Just obviously I don't know him, but just from outside looking in. And then obviously there's been other people that have said things about it. But if that is the case, then I do think that is a fantastic sign for the Steelers and for Russell moving forward. So I'm excited to watch that. But since we've been on the John Harbaugh talk and talk about some other things, let's go ahead and get into the hot seat watch. We talked about some of our previous hot seat watch candidates, and some of them have been good, some of them haven't been great. But I'm interested to see who you guys got this week and why.
For me, I got the Cardinals on hot seat watch. I think one of us had them on there earlier, but
I had Kyler.
I mean, this division is slipping by the wayside at this point. I mean, I understand y'all all like kind of grouped up, but you had an opportunity to separate yourself. You played Seattle, and you turn around and lose that in a game that you could have won. It was there for the taking. Then the following week, again, like we said earlier, you had the chance to win the game, and again, let this shit slip by. So now you playing your division opponent with Seattle. So once again, if you lose this game, I just don't see a way they can get in the playoffs. And this was I guess not a do or die, but I feel like this would have been like a turning point year for Kyler in general, like to see what the direction you're going in as an organization. So I got them on the hot seat watch, and more specifically, Jonathan Gannon, because you're the defensive coordinator, but nowadays most people are trying to transition to having an offensive mind person as a head coach, and Kyler's healthy this year. You done got got him a receiver in the draft. You gotta make something happen. So got them on hot seat watch.
Yeah, I like that one. Big division game coming up.
Very frustrating.
Yeah, every time.
I'm not even a Cardinals fan, but I mean, it's just frustrating to see because I did want to see.
I feel like at least us. I feel like we don't have nothing like now. We got something against other people, but I say we all like Kyler Murray in general, and it's like we think he a good quarterback, and it's just like you just said, Shy, it's very frustrating to see how the games go. It's just like, damn, you feel like you should be able to take
so
over better. Yeah.
So inconsistent. I like that one a lot. Of course, my last week was Kirk Cousins. I won't do it to him again. I probably should. This is probably more of a hot seat now, honestly. But I'm gonna go with Mike McDaniel and Tua, both of them. They went out before Thanksgiving saying that they wanted to erase the narrative.
Sure you do.
And they go out and they did everything that people thought they would do, which is fold because the weather is cold.
Had us fooled.
And they are who we thought they were. And so I'm putting them on the hot seat, both of them. Mike McDaniel, you gotta look. I understand that Tua was out those 5 weeks or so. But you're still in it. You were still in it coming into that Thanksgiving game. You're still in it now. You can't salvage this season. It's no excuse to really go out and blame the totality of the season if you were to miss the playoffs on Tua's injury, because you had ample amount of time with Tua to kind of turn. And honestly, even without Tua in some of those games, exactly. Even without Tua in some of the things, your team just laid down.
Shit, even before he got hurt, they was playing like shit. So
they should have won that Buffalo game, the first game of the season, but they folded, they sold. So yeah, I'm putting Mike McDaniel. Look, we gotta see some results now. You're going into your fourth season next. This is the fourth season next year, I believe. This 3 seasons is enough time to know what you have, in the coach. And if it keeps having this kind of, repetitive thing, like we had this exciting offense, but we can't, late in the season, it just never works out. It's not a good onus on the head coach. So, and then Tua got all that money as well, which doesn't help.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mike McDaniel, Tua, Dolphins, you're on a hot seat. You got the Jets this week. Don't fuck that up. I know it's a division game, but don't lose to the Jets. Come on.
It definitely wasn't great. And I every time they kind of like reel you in because you like want to see them do well. And
I mean, look at
That's why I picked them.
Look at their offense, man. This offense is supposed to be deadly. It's just supposed to be, and they don't
have
get
a Jonnu
shit.
Smith look like a Pro Bowler out there, and the rest of the offense is just like, Jalen Waddle's not having his best season. The running back, the run game is all.
They don't even know what they want to do with the run game.
Exactly.
They've like gone too far on the running back by committee.
Mm-hmm.
It's
exactly.
They've gone too far. I feel like they've even gone too far on like trying to like the cute shit, the too much motion a little bit sometimes. It's like, bro, like, just line it up and get it. Like, bro, come on.
Yeah. Like, what they say, cat break dancers.
I mean, that's what it. It's hard to deny that at this point. It really is.
Yeah, man. Well, you spoke about Jonnu Smith. Kyle Pitts. There's been a lot of conversation about him. He really should be on the hot seat here.
I think Kyle Pitts is already gone. Yeah. I think that shit has sailed.
I'm going on the defensive side, and I am going with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons has been doing a lot of talking, of course,
Big Wolf,
and saying that the Cowboys are still going to make the playoffs or going to fight to at least get into the playoffs. There's been a lot of talk from Dak, obviously, some talk from Jerry about Mike McCarthy keeping his job. And, there was the comments from earlier that people took the wrong way, I feel, in my opinion, from Micah Parsons about Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
And Micah Parsons, to his credit, for one of the guys that talks as he does, he typically always not always. For the most part, he backs us up. He's one of the dominant players in the league, and that he's been just that over the past few weeks. 5.5 sacks over the past 3-4 weeks since he's been back. And last time when Dak got hurt and Cooper Rush had an opportunity to start, his first start was against Cincinnati. That was a game that Micah Parsons and the defense dominated. Micah Parsons had 2 sacks in that game, and he can kind of lead the charge Obviously he still has his contract looming as well. If I don't think that Dallas will make the playoffs, obviously, just because given their record, how things may go with the rest of the teams in the NFC. But if they do really like Mike McCarthy and they do really want him back, I don't know about Mike Zimmer sticking there as DC. Maybe with different personnel, things will change there. But I do think that this is a game that Micah Parsons, the Bengals, as great as we want to talk about their offense, they did turn the ball over a bunch last week against the Steelers. Micah Parsons can dominate this game, make it a low-scoring game like it was in that a few years ago when Cooper Rush played against the Cincinnati Bengals as well. And Cincinnati is, they can say what they want. They're reeling. They've been reeling bad. They've been reeling bad for 2 years, really. And there's a lot. I don't know if Lou Anarumo will get fired. I don't know if Zach Taylor will get fired. I don't think that Lou Anarumo just forgot how to become a defensive coordinator. I do think that they've got a bunch of McDonald's workers over there, but Micah Parsons on the hot seat. You obviously earned the contract, but earn the contract. Go ahead, try to get Dallas into the playoffs, dominate this game on Monday night. Talk your shit after. So I got Micah Parsons on the hot seat, and I think he will perform as well. But
Monday night, I hope so. I hope it's a good Monday night game because
I think the Cowboys have put up decent games. They haven't been terrible. They haven't been great, but they haven't been terrible. But getting into the picks for the week, let's go ahead and get a rundown, and we'll get into it.
All right. Big week for Chris again. 5 out of 6. The only one you got wrong was going with Miami. You're also the only one that picked Denver. Shot and I picked Cleveland, which Cleveland really should have won that game. But
yeah,
it is what it is. I had 3 out of 6. Shot, you have 4 out of 6. So that gives us, I'm at 42 for the season. Chris, you're at 52. Shot, you're at 43. So
yeah. All right,
here we go.
Another week of Thursday night football featuring Green Bay and Detroit. Obviously, they didn't play each other last week, but they're always on the Thanksgiving slate. But Green Bay at Detroit, division game. Obviously, they played earlier in the season in a game that Detroit won. Got a few Jordan Love blunders. But who you guys got and why?
Probably the best game out of the slate. It's good, a good bit of good games, but this is an interesting one. This is really, both teams need it, because for the Lions, one slip up, you could lose the number 1 seed and possibly not even be in the top. If you lose against a division, you could be out of the top 4. Yeah, and so you're fighting and your games aren't easy either for the rest of the season. And same thing with Green Bay, you're fighting to try to at least keep the wild card and get the division. But Detroit, they've been suffering a lot of injuries on the defensive side that can prove to be an issue against Green Bay. So I'm gonna go Detroit still, though. I just can't pick against them. They, for whatever reason, it just feel like it's their season right now. Like, you can go from a game that you throwing, 5 picks, and then you still win the game. Then you go to another game where you just dominate everybody, or the ball bounces your way. So it just feel like one of them seasons for them. But I would not be shocked if Green Bay do pull up the upset, but I got Detroit.
This one's tough for me to pick as well because of the injuries. It's injuries from both teams actually in this one. I think we got an injury report today, and I think like Jair obviously is going to be out, but Romeo Dobbs is out, Edgerrin Cooper, and then for we already know about Detroit's injury. So I think you're facing on both sides. I'm gonna go with Detroit, but I think this whole division is fascinating this year. Because you look in contrast to what Kansas City has going on in Buffalo in the AFC, and of course those two teams are at it, But they're Buffalo locked up their division already. So I mean, and Kansas City has the opportunity to do that as well this weekend. So it's like you look at that, you turn to Detroit, and you fuck around and lose this game, like you say, you can drop down to the 5th seed. Like Minnesota and Green Bay are both right there. So it's fascinating that this late into the season for these good of teams, like these are still important, very very important games. I'm gonna go Detroit in this one. But I'm expecting a huge like performance out of both teams. I think this will be a game. I think this might be game of the week, like Chris said.
Yeah, very well could be, and I'm glad we're getting that tomorrow night on Thursday. I'm actually going to rock with the Green Bay Packers. I don't think that Jordan Love will do that dumbass pick six that he did in the end zone like he did the first game. And Detroit, I said last week, following that Colts game that they had, they handled the Colts, but the Colts had a lot of opportunities and could have won that game. Same thing with Chicago. And, if you guys recall, my whole spiel about it last week was, Chicago could put up a fight just like the Colts did, but they're going to end up fucking it up with blunders. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Green Bay, on the other hand, we do. Jordan Love has had, his interceptions, but they don't beat themselves as much as those teams. And, for as much as people talk about Joe Burrow and how great he has been, passing the ball, Jordan Love, even with his picks, has the exact same EPA per play. Mm-hmm. So that tells you how prolific he's been, even with the picks. And you can only imagine how much better it would be without it. Detroit, they're itching. They're itching for a loss. They've been flirting with it. The past couple of weeks, like you mentioned, their injuries just keep hitting. They're in the middle. They are missing just about really on the D line, they're missing just about everybody that they came in with the season with, aside from Aleem McNeil. Zadarius Smith did make the play that ended up getting him that sacked Caleb and ended up ending the game. So that was good to see from him, their midseason trade acquisition. But I do think that Green Bay, they're trying to keep pace, like you said, Chris. So I think they finally give Detroit their second loss, and things start to get interesting in the NFC.
Jamal Adams, sneaky pickup for Detroit.
Yeah,
it was a
sneaky pickup.
Good pickup. I don't think he's playing tomorrow, but.
Well, I don't know about sneaky good, but sneaky, yeah, maybe good.
I mean,
everybody's been saying Jamal Adams would be a sneaky good pickup for the past 7 years.
Another thing about this game I do like is that I don't think we'll see the regular like Thursday kind of like what the fuck is going on, because both these teams had a full week off. Yeah, so it is good to see that on a Thursday night game.
I do got Detroit, but honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if we see Green Bay dominate, to be honest with you. I would not be shocked if I see them dominate.
Yep. But getting into the next game, another big game of the week. Might not end up a big game of the week, but Kirk Cousins returned to Minnesota. Obviously, he left as a free agent, ended up joining with the Falcons. Minnesota's having a fantastic season with Sam Darnold, and Kirk Cousins having, whatever kind of season with the Falcons right now. Past couple of weeks have been rough, but who you guys got and why?
Ooh, man. I mean, both. It's funny. Again, it's like we get into that part of the season where everybody's fighting for something. So like again, both teams need this, because if the Vikings get this W, Detroit happen to lose, they're in prime position to take over that division. And the Falcons for sure need it after losing last week, and then the Bucks pulling out that win. The Bucks playing the Raiders this week, so you don't want to, lose a game and then now they're ahead of you in the win column, and now they're on top of the division. But I got the Vikings, and that's more so what we've been seeing from Kirk Cousins, and the fact that Brian Flores, his niche is blitzing. That's all he gonna do. He gonna blitz up a motherfucking storm, and I mean with him not being mobile, and it's not even he gotta be a dual threat. Like he can't even move for real. Like that's gonna be tough. He's a smart quarterback. He's a veteran quarterback, but I don't know. And you know what? Maybe he knows something we don't. He was playing with the Vikings last year. Maybe he knows a little something about Brian Flores to combat that possibly. But in my opinion, it's gonna be a blitz that he probably get sacked and fumble and lose the game.
ever since that Pittsburgh game, they kind of shifted their style for these both blitz heavy teams the Falcons have,
Mm-hmm.
both blitz heavy teams and teams with like just fantastic D lines. Last week, you kind of saw they were a little bit worried about the Chargers pass rush because that's really the crux of their defense. And they had a lot of 6 and 7 man protections back there, which limits the amount of routes that are ran, which had Kirk making half field reads a lot. And if you go back and watch this film, it's literally most of the game. I would say probably about 70% of the game was Kirk making half field reads, just all the routes to one side of the field. Yeah, I don't think that's how you beat Minnesota. And of course, on a couple of those, free blitzers came, and that's Minnesota's whole thing. Like you're going to line everybody up. You're going to line 6 people up. You don't know who the fuck's coming. You think four is coming at least, but you don't know where it's coming from. So it'll be a lot on Atlanta's pass protection to kind of win this game. I'm going to pick them, but that's literally just me being a homer and me thinking, okay, ain't no way Kirk can be he can play as bad as he's been playing, but who the fuck knows? Minnesota's also been flirting with a loss, kind of like Detroit has these past few weeks. So that's the main reason why I'm going to pick that. But look, that's just I'm just going to pick it out like this.
Yeah, and Minnesota, like you mentioned, has been flirting with losses and have also been finding ways to win, similar to the Kansas City Chiefs. And some people say that's a mark of a team. It is to an extent. It's to an extent, but Kirk Cousins, the Falcons. I mean, you guys know how I felt about the Falcons all season. They've been probably shouldn't have been in this position in the first place. I mean, given some of the games how they played out, but I mean, it's also the Kirk Cousins roller coaster that it is, and how most of his seasons have been. It's going to be tough. I mean, they're about to blitz the fuck out of him, and Minnesota's going to be heavily motivated,
and he's terrible.
He's going to be he's going to be heavily motivated as well. But it's I think it's going to be a pretty. That Thursday night game is going to tell a lot. Obviously, if Green Bay wins, I think I'll go ahead and call it's probably going to be a Vikings blowout if Green Bay wins. If not, then I think it'll probably be a little bit closer. But I'm going to rock with Minnesota as well. The Falcons are going to start getting into them heavy questions, but I don't think Michael Penix should start at all this season. Don't really think he should start next season either. I don't think the Falcons want him to start next season either, given the contract that they gave to Kirk Cousins with the no trade clause as well. So we'll start to see how that plays out. But we'll see. Hopefully, because I do think that, like I said, we talked about it before. I do think that it was interesting that Kirk started doing the media tour, and has kind of been throughout the season. He's been in a lot of interviews as well. So it'll be interesting to see if he ends up retiring. But don't want to call it too early, because when I said it earlier in the season, he had a game against the Bucs. He goes for like 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. So who knows? We'll see.
And the Bucs about to run Engage 8 on his ass all game.
Oh, they are. They are. For sure.
It's gonna be. It could get ugly. It could get very ugly.
They are.
On the road too. It's gonna be loud. Boy, look,
Minnesota's a 6-point favorite, so that is very telling for two playoff teams to be current playoff teams to be going against each other, and that team is a 6-point favorite. It's a heavy line, so it might honestly be. Might need to take that line down a little bit there. But with that being said, get into the next game. This was an ugly game. 2 weeks ago? Probably going to be another ugly game. Seattle at Arizona. Geno versus Kyler again. 2 weeks ago it was for first division, kind of in the same boat now. Well, Seattle's kind of taking it there, but who you guys got and why?
I mean, I got them boys on the hot seat. So I'm gonna rock with them though. I'm gonna rock with the Cardinals. This is their chance. For me, their last chance to try to make some noise and get in the playoffs, and even really win a division. But yeah, that game 2 weeks ago, very ugly, terrible game. It was just nasty all the way around. It's gonna be the same way again. But I think I think they're gonna pull away and make a play here or there and win the game. I mean, it's a division game. They always gonna be tough, obviously, but I'm looking for them for a little bounce back from Arizona, so I'm gonna pick them.
I'm gonna go with Arizona as well in this one. I mean, I think this is a big game for Seattle, like a big measuring stick game. Because like, really, who are we, Seattle? Because some weeks you look you look good, some weeks you look terrible, some weeks it's like, okay, you found a way to win, cool. But do you really want to win this division? And the way San Francisco is going down, it's like, all right, now like this is your shot, and you gotta. I get the Rams. The Rams are kind of lurking a little bit too. But this is your shot, Seattle. You win this game. You're 8-5. You have strong control of this division going into the last 4 weeks of the season. But because of that, I'm going to go with Arizona because I don't think they're going to take their. I don't think they're going to grab it. I don't think they're going to take their chance here. Shout out to Trey McBride. We gave a lot of love to Brock Bowers. The last few weeks as well. But Trey McBride has been a top 3 tight end in this league this season. He's having incredible games for the Cardinals, and I think this is his third season in the league. So he's really young too. He's definitely earning a good contract. Shout out to Trey McBride, man. He's not enough people are talking about him being a top tight end in this league.
Yeah, I mean, people really just aren't talking about the tight ends too much in general, really, because
Kelsey's not having a good year, so tight end position don't matter.
So but I'm actually going to rock with Seattle in this one. I think the Cardinals are floundering right now, and I think I think this is where the talent is starting to catch up with them into the season. Just the talent and the depth is starting to catch up with them a little bit. In Seattle, they just do enough to win every week. We talk about, when we were talking about the coaching hires, everybody wants to get an offensive coordinator. And I don't necessarily think that he's nailed the offensive coordinator hire, but Mike McDonald is starting to look like kind of that leader of men type of guy, similar to what's my boy? Oh God, why can't I think of his name? Detroit coach Dan Campbell. But yeah, like similar to Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell wasn't like a particularly a play caller or anything like that. Obviously, he's had the luck of Ben Johnson, loving what he's doing there and sticking around. But I just think that Seattle, Geno Smith has been playing well. Obviously he's had his interceptions here and there, but he's really kind of carrying the team more than anything. And Leonard Williams has been dominating on the defensive side. Had a big pick six against Aaron Rodgers, big pick six against Aaron Rodgers last week that kind of turned that game as well. So I'm going to rock with Seattle. I do think that Leonard Williams has a big game. And I think Seattle kind of takes a stranglehold there.
And I love seeing that from players, being able to, revive your career a little bit, for both of them, really, Geno and Leonard, from Leonard going from the Jets, then the Giants, and now they're here. And then same thing with Geno moving around.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So like to see that. But
it is
dominant.
It is good to see for sure. And he might be I don't know about all pro, but he'll definitely be a pro. Well, he should be a Pro Bowler this year. We don't know because of the fucking fan voting and stuff like that. Getting into the next game, Bills at the Rams. Rams still try to stick in there. Bills obviously humming. They did just clinch division, as Cass mentioned, with a dominant win over the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Josh Allen is the heavy favorite right now for MVP. Who you guys got and why?
Yeah, that boy, he heavy favorite. He gonna continue to make that magic work. I think they're gonna dominate the Rams. I just don't believe in the Rams in general. They had a tough game last week against the Saints. They was able to pull it out. But I think Buffalo gonna come to LA and they're gonna dominate. So I got Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo.
It's hard to pick against Buffalo. They dominated in the run game last week, and I think that would be their formula this week. Of course, we talked about we know how good the Rams defensive line has been as far as getting pressure on the passer, but Josh Allen is just different. is I don't know, man. It's tough to pick, but I'm gonna go Buffalo even on the road, even against like a hungry Rams team. It'll be a tough loss for them, but I just can't pick against them. I can't bring myself to it.
Shout out Micah Hyde returning home as well.
Oh, yeah.
Signed with the Buffalo Bills today. I had a feeling that was going to happen because he kind of said that if he wasn't going to play in Buffalo, he's going to retire. And, he didn't officially retire, and he's just kind of been sitting there. And there's been some teams that have needed a veteran safety. So I'm also rocking with Buffalo. They are, I had them as my number one seed. I had Josh Allen as the MVP. Kind of had it as their season. Early on, it's pretty much always looked like they were going to have a good season, but obviously Lamar and them were dominating. I mean, Lamar still dominated, and statistically probably should be the MVP favorite as well. But obviously given the wins and losses and stuff like that, I just think the Rams are. I don't know. Some weeks they're great, some weeks they're not. They're a very up and down team, but that's kind of what happens when you're. They're still kind of building up their depth while having like a few superstar players. Excuse me. And I think that Buffalo, Josh Allen's humming, and they know it's a big week, given that the Sunday night game with Kansas City and the Chargers could be a week that they actually get into the first seed. So I think that they're going to be motivated to get as many wins as possible going into the season, or going into the last stretch of the season. So I'm rocking with the Bills in this one. And go ahead and get into the Sunday night game. Chargers at Kansas City. It's going to be a big game, big division game. Obviously, we talked about the Chargers and, did they even score a touchdown offensively in one last week? And, Kansas City, another team beat themselves and they found themselves on top. So who you guys got and why?
We talking about the other teams, man. Kansas City's probably the main team that been flirting with L's all damn season, like especially within the division. They just won the last game off of some crazy shit from the Raiders, and then when they played the Broncos, blocked the field goal.
Yeah,
I mean, and with stuff like that, I just can't go against them, man. For whatever fucking reason, when the game gets on the line, it's not even that you see an awesome play by them. You just see the other team just fold. You just see the other team just do something just abnormal or silly.
They just don't beat themselves.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the Chargers will put up a good fight. I think it's a good chance they could win, but I just can't pick against Kansas City right now. So go with Kansas City.
I'm gonna go Kansas City as well. I don't think they're gonna dominate this team, but I think you did see some stuff last week with the Chargers. Like you saw how big of an impact the loss of J.K. Dobbins was for that offense. You saw, have we seen the last couple of weeks how cute Quentin Johnston is. Look, I'm rooting for the guy, but dude, man, he got some great hands. It's tough. It's tough. But with Ladd being their only threat. And with Ladd being their only threat in an offensive line that hopefully bounces back, but also just gave up 5 sacks to the worst pass rush in the league, going against Kansas City's defense, it could be a little rough. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Kansas City finds a way like they always do to close this out. Kansas City.
So a part of me thinks that the Chargers were kind of doing a little bit of a look ahead last week. In terms of offensively, because there'd be stretches where they kind of got what they wanted, and then, like you said, it would be a random, like it'd be a sack. They kind of got dominated a little bit in the middle, and defensively, they kind of played well. Well, defensively they were all right.
They were all right, yeah.
Right. They weren't like necessarily stout, but I mean they made plays on third down when necessary. Obviously, the Falcons go for a lot of 4th and 1s, which is you like to see, but
not with this, not going sideways.
Yeah. And the sweeps and stuff like that wasn't great.
Gosh.
But obviously they made plays in the past game. Kansas City, but they've been slipping. A lot of people have been saying that. Patrick Mahomes has been playing better, kind of. He just hasn't been turning the ball over as much.
Yeah.
But their offense is right about where it's been the entire season. Defensively, they've been top 10 for most of the season, and right now they are 15th in EPA per play, which is a huge drop from what it's been. And obviously last year they were the number 1 defense in the league. And in terms of their passing EPA, which is where I think that the Chargers could find some success here, it's 21st, which is right above Atlanta. And we know about Atlanta's defense. No offense. But, and it's right between the Colts as well. So, and we know about the Colts defense. He just got ate up by fucking Drake May and the Patriots' worst offensively league. So, you know, with that being said, I also am kind of was feeling the same way. Like, Chargers are kind of the team that beats themselves, even under Jim Harbaugh. We saw that kind of ugly game they had with the Cincinnati Bengals where nobody wanted to win the game. But I just saw the last time the Kansas City Chiefs played a defense this good with the Broncos. They struggled, and obviously the Broncos should have won that game. I think that the Chargers sneak this one and get it, and we get that Bills Chiefs fighting for that 1 seed and see how that goes down the stretch. So I'm rocking with the Chargers in this one very, very nervously. But I think they need it, and I think they kind of need it to define the Jim Harbaugh like era of this iteration of their team. I think this would be a huge first or like big win for them, and I think they get it. So I think he calls a good game. I'm hoping. But with that being said, getting into the Monday night game, final game of the week, Cincinnati at Dallas, two teams that are, teetering with a loss. It's over, really. It's really over either way, but with a loss, it's probably over for them. Who you guys got and why?
Man, ugly game. I mean, I'm piggyback off what you said. As far as Dallas defense, because they can't get out the quarterback, but their offense is just crazily inept. And I understand that the Bengals defense is probably the worst in the damn league, but I just feel like this will be a shootout type of game. But I just don't think Dallas offense can actually perform in a shootout in general. So I'm just gonna rock with Bengals. No confidence at all, though, to be honest with you. 0.
I'm gonna go with Cincinnati too. I think they end up scoring enough. I think they do end up scoring enough points, and I don't think Dallas's offense can keep up. Mathematically, both teams are still in the playoff hunt.
Yeah,
that's fair. I get it. So you're just not laying over. Actually, more so Dallas. As crazy as it sounds, they have a I don't want to say it's a good chance, but only 7 losses. There is a path that, and then and especially with Washington, kind of. I know they got the blowout last week, but so I'm gonna go Cincinnati in this one, but Dallas might fight harder. I wouldn't be surprised with that.
Yeah, I'm going with Cincinnati as well. I did have Micah Parsons on the hot seat, and I do think that he will dominate the game. I do think that Dallas has a great game and keeps it close. I bet we see like a 2017 game, but I just think that since Jamar Chase is probably going to make a big play, that kind of changes the game.
Wide open.
How he has been doing. And we're going to hear more talk about Cincinnati and Joe Burrow's play, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to lose their next 3. So I don't know who they play the next 3. But, that's,
they got Pittsburgh, Denver. I mean, it can get up to the next 3.
But, yeah, I just can't trust Cooper Rush, to consistently put up points. And, they did play all right against the Giants. Rico Dowdle has been playing well over the past few weeks. Now that they've decided to actually use him and lean on him. CD, he's just in and out, banged up. So it's just a tough season. But yeah, I'm rocking with Cincinnati now. Yeah, man. But switching gears, we're starting to get a little bit of storylines in the NBA. Some people want to talk about LeBron. Is he falling off? Is he not? Nah, I don't really care to get into that because I don't think he's falling off. I just think that he's fucking 40 years old. It's early in the season. But I think the biggest storyline, Joel Embiid and the 76ers, obviously having a very, very bad season thus far. But we got some news that came out that a few weeks ago they had kind of a players meeting or really kind of a team meeting, organizational meeting, really necessary, everything, where Joel Embiid started to get called out, basically. Therese Maxey said that, he basically had to start carrying himself as a leader, as a face of a franchise, as a person that's supposed to be a superstar in this league, an MVP. A lot. It was pretty heavy. Obviously, PG's came out and, he has his podcast, so he came out and talked about it a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of that, especially just because it's like, how are you going to come out and talk about, we don't know how it got leaked. We didn't like that it got leaked, but you're still talking about it. Just leave it alone, in my opinion. But what did you guys think about that and, the state of the Philadelphia 76ers?
I mean, the state. Go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
I think the worst. I think what happened is the least surprising part of it, the aftermath of it. It seemed like everybody was focused on how to leak the players that came out and talked about it. We're more focused on who was leaking the locker room rather than the actual message.
Yeah.
that was supposed to be getting across. And this team has been floundering. They're 5-14 now. Of course, they won their last game, but you still have Joel in and out of the lineup. Well, I don't even want to say in and out of the lineup. He was out and then came back for a couple of games, and now he's out again. Paul George is the one in and out of the lineup. He's out tonight after just playing last night, 37 minutes. It's like so if you're not playing back-to-backs, you're 5-14. Joel, you don't know when the fuck he's gonna get right, if he ever gets right. This team has a lot of question marks for a team that has a lot of veterans on it. It's a lot of question marks, a lot of noise around this team. We know how noise is, especially in the NBA. That shit does not end up well at all. But yeah, I think the main thing was what came out from it. Like people were like, well, I'm gonna like. I think it was a quote even, or maybe it might have been made up, but maybe. But Joel even saying like, I need to find out who, I'm gonna find out who leaked this, like whatever. Like, dude, that's not what you need to be worried about right now at all.
Which is crazy because you hear about this all the time, like players only meetings. But you don't ever hear nobody say who the fuck talking about it, who brought this shit up, like who said something. You don't never hear that, and it's crazy because
they put a direct name on it,
right? And it's crazy because Joel Embiid should be the damn veteran, man. He's been in that damn team since when 2014, 15. So he's been there 19 years.
14, yeah, 14.
So you've been there. You are the vet. Like this is your team. Like. It's crazy that it's taking what they're saying is true. It's taking somebody like Tyrese Maxey who basically just got there, goddamn. And
15 actually. I'm sorry.
So you've been there 9 years, and you're not. That's like no leadership, and it's sad to see because you got talent. I mean, you have talent there in general, but I mean. I don't know how they're gonna dig themselves out this hole. To be honest with you, especially with them, your main guys are in and out of line. Like Cass said, I mean, Joel, you can't even say in and out. He's just out. He's not even. He's just out.
That's the difference between like them and Milwaukee. Milwaukee was in a hole earlier in the season, but you can count on Giannis, and Giannis has been fucking balling.
They've been quietly.
They on a 7-game winning streak.
You can count on him to be out there playing, like. Even hurt, giving it his all. You can't rely on Joel. So it's going to be very difficult to climb out of the hole they're in. It's getting worse.
And I do want to kind of be a little sensitive to the fact that he could just be beat up, and that is a possibility. But it is also like and everybody's been taking shots at him too, because Jaylen Brown just took a shot at him basically. What was it? Doc Rivers. Who else said something? One of the coaches said something about like it's hard. It was Ty Lue. He was like, it's hard when it's hard to establish anything when nobody wants to play back to backs. And he was like, James Harden, even when we want to sit him, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to sit out. And Jaylen Brown basically said the same thing, same sentiment. People playing back to back. So it's not a great look for Joel Embiid. It's funny to me because so many people were like, trying to dog Jokic and be like, oh, Jokic, whereas Jokic is, which I never understood because for so many people that wanted like that talk about big men playing like bigs, Jokic does all of that and plays like a modern big as well. Jokic has no problem going back to the basket and being dominant in the post. He's a fantastic passer out of the post. He's a fantastic passer from the perimeter. He's a great perimeter shooter. He might not always have the great percentages. If he wants to shoot, that motherfucker could make 10 for 10 if he really wanted to.
And this season, he has a great percentage. He's in the 40. He has like 43% from three this season.
I mean, he's by far, in my opinion, the best player in the league. Has been that, I've been saying he's the most skilled player in the league since like his rookie year, for real, in my opinion. So it's just funny to see like the parallels, and now nobody's even kind of reversing course on it. It'll be like, we want to give Jokic a little respect, so we're just talking that shit. But I mean, it's just sad. Like, it's a sad state for where basketball is, honestly, because why are the old guys? Why is LeBron? Because I just talked about some people are calling him saying he's declined. Well, why can't LeBron be? If LeBron was on the Joel Embiid shit, he'd probably be averaging 25, 27. I mean, he might already be average. I think he's averaging like 24 or something like that. But it's like a 40-year-old man is trying to play every game. KD, I mean, he's brittle body, but he plays every game. Steph, same thing. I would say Draymond, but Draymond is MIA if Steph's out. So, but
Jokic playing every. Well, he's not that
Jokic
old.
Jokic tries to play every game. Giannis.
He damn
but it's like you're an MVP. Same thing with Zion. I don't know. Zion could be hurt. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what his body's like. I don't know. We don't know. None of the media knows. The only people that know is him and his doctors. But I've seen some people talk about like, Zion likes basketball. He never loved it. And, he was just a big dude that was athletic, and maybe he doesn't put enough work in. And it's like you start having these people question that stuff about you. And it's like, bro, like, just put on. Like, you wanted to be a performer. Like, you wanted to be in this shit. Like, you got to start doing the contracts where you only get the max if you play X amount.
Honestly,
if you're really unless you're really hurt, like that's different. But if you're just like not putting in the work, like that contract hits a threshold, and they need to figure something out. They need to figure something out. All this extra dumb shit that they're trying to do. I mean, I like the cup. Don't get me wrong. But all the extra stuff that they're trying to do, they need to figure something out. Like it needs to be a culture setter from the next generation. It's not LeBron. I know people want to try to blame LeBron. It's not LeBron. It's not KD. It's not Steph. They don't need to be the culture setters. They set the standard for their era. They played hard, and they did what they were supposed to do. James Harden the same way. Russell Westbrook the same way. All that same class. Paul George. I mean, Paul George is hurt, but Paul George be playing. And Paul George, I mean, we can make any type of jokes we want to about Paul George, people do, and his failing or whatever. But Paul George, when he's healthy, he comes out and he plays. He gives, for the most part, gives his Jimmy Butler, all of those guys. So it's the Ants, the Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum does play all the games. Jaylen Brown for the most part too. But they've got to be the ones to set the standards. Luka, that shit's got to change, man. And Edwards, like all of that. Trae Young, Tyson, Halliburton, all you guys.
I think
Teresa,
the tough part about that is, and we talk about it all the time on this show, and it's not getting talked about nearly enough. But the worst part about it is the coverage around this. We're still relying on these guys, all those guys that you mentioned, the older guys. You're relying heavily on these guys, and you're not giving enough attention to these young guys that are coming up at all. You're not talking about like the Magic are balling right now, but you're not talking about them at all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Houston, you're not talking about them at all. Why? Because they don't have a KD, they don't have a LeBron, they don't have these guys that you've been talking about for decades.
And I also think they expect these teams, because I mean they didn't even talk about the Cavs, and the Cavs were what, 16-0, 15-0. Like that's one of the best, or was like fourth or fifth best start in the NBA history or some shit like that. We got basically nothing about it.
I think the only one.
It was. You're right.
We didn't hear anything about that. Like they'll have some segments on like what's that shit?
When they play Boston,
NBA Today or NBA Countdown, shit like that. They'll have a little segment about it, some shit. But like, dude, like the coverage has to be so much better around this game. It's is really bad. What do y'all think about the All-Star game? They changing that shit again.
I didn't read too much
You didn't
into
read
it,
it
to
too-
be
oh,
honest.
okay.
I'm just gonna wait and watch to see how it plays out and kind of go from there. Because I mean, I can make my judgments on it. People made their judgments on the NBA Cup last year, and it turned out to, in my opinion, it was pretty excellent. Aside from maybe the court designs need to be a little bit crisper. I mean, I don't mind the change in the colors and stuff like that, but some of them will be better. But and there's other things that people criticize the original format of the how the all-star game was going to, with the scoring in the quarters, and the end of the fourth quarter was kind of where it got serious. And for a couple years, it was fantastic. So I'm just kind of gonna wait and see, but that's more so what we don't need to be. If we're changing that much, it needs to start being on the onus of the players. Like, that's
exactly.
It needs to, the players have to start, and especially that bullshit that Anthony Edwards was doing last year. We talked about it a lot, but the left-handed, personally, I didn't like that. I'm a big fan of Edwards, but it was a little immature in my opinion. Even shit, he's got to mature a little bit too, because while his interviews be funny sometimes, some of that shit's bullshit. Same with LaMelo, like that oh yeah, he fucking tripping gang or whatever the shit he's saying, or like like bruh, like you've been in the league for too long, like that shit ain't your stop, bruh. Like that shit's funny with your boys, but you're a professional. Like, act like a professional, this is why you're not making the fucking playoffs. Like, this is probably why you're always getting hurt, being too sloppy, not being a professional. You guys are the next you're the next generation. Like, set the standard and the tone for the leagues that you say, because all these young guys come in and try to say, oh, the league ain't what it used to be, but you're the one setting it. Like, you're the reason why. You set the tone.
Like the other day, what Ant was saying, going off on the crowd for booing him, and it's like, that's what they do. You perform bad, that's what most crowds do. Like, what are you talking about? And he was just like really upset, was going off on the fans, like, that's not like, man.
And I get it, but
it's the interview calling his team immature overall. Like, dude, like you got.
We've seen immaturity from that team over the past few years, but it's like and he's young, so I mean, it's not like it's not like I am expecting. I'm saying you got to be perfect, but let's be a little bit more professional, a little bit. It doesn't always have to be professional. Still show your personality. It's funny, but all that shit is,
it's a little extra.
It's a little too much. Like, let's have a little bit of professionalism. But speaking of getting into the young guys, this is the benefit of the NBA Cup. Now the NBA Cup, we saw a huge benefit for Tyrese Halliburton, and he hasn't been talked about a lot this season because he's been but he hasn't been great. But he benefited heavily from the NBA Cup in terms of his stardom, coming off of the USA, FIBA that he had, him and Ant, coming into the season, has a huge NBA, makes it to the championship. They end up, having a great season and going on to the Eastern Conference Finals. But this year we've got some interesting crop of teams. To start, we've got OKC and the Mavericks on the West, and then the Rockets and Warriors. So Rockets, as you mentioned, a young team. On the other side, the Magic, as you mentioned, going against the Bucks, and the Knicks going against the Hawks, with your number 1 overall draft pick this year. So who you guys, we talked about it when we made our predictions. Predictions were off, but
mine were on point.
Well, yeah. Who
Warriors,
you guys
Knicks.
got and why? Or who do you guys think out of those, like the crop of maybe the young teams, could be the one? And who's the player that you think could kind of emerge?
I'll say Orlando. Like Cass said, they've been playing pretty damn good this year, and I think the team in particular, like, I think it's all their star. I think not all their star, but I think most of their players can benefit from it, because they're a smaller market in general, and most people don't just sit around and be like, oh, Orlando Magic. Even last year, for them to be Paolo to be so young, basically like the man of the team outside of, I guess you could call one of the Wagner brothers or whatever, Forgot which one.
France.
Yeah.
France.
But I mean, I think that this is a chance for them to have that Halliburton type of ordeal where people start to see, okay, I see what y'all doing. I mean, we watch it,
And
but
one thing,
yeah,
I was gonna say one thing we must mention is we've mentioned that they're having a good season, but Paolo's been out, so
right.
that their streak started after he
But
left
see,
too.
he was
So
going
that is
crazy
even
before
more
he got
impressive.
hurt.
He was going
crazy. But yeah. So I think Orlando as a team can benefit from this very much. So
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to like overall. I don't think their teams are going to win, but I'll pick one from East Side, a player from East Side. For the Hawks, I think this is the year that Trae Young. I think this NBA Cup could be the opportunity for Trae Young to start getting his just due. He's doing what he's always done since he's been in the league. Honestly, close to the top of the league, if not leading the league in assists. Scoring 27 a game at least is like. I get that he's small, I get that he's I don't know how tall he is, 6 feet at best, whatever.
He's actually kind of. I think he's like 6'2". I think
6'2".
He's like
I
a
don't think he's
7.
that tall.
I think he's decently tall, taller than people think. He's just slim, like slender body.
But it's like, how much does he have? How much more? What does he have to do like to get put on different like echelon from where he is now? I get that his team hasn't been good. I know that's a big part of it as well, obviously. But I think this NBA Cup's opportunity for them to ball out. The Hawks haven't been, they haven't been great, but for this tournament they have, and they're at I think they're at 500 now on the season, so they're not a terrible team right now. They're in the thick of it, especially in the East. So I think it's an opportunity for them. And then in the West, Jalen Green hasn't been talked about enough. Of course, that goes into just people not talking about the Rockets at all. But he's having a fantastic season, along with like Alperen Şengün. But Jalen Green has been out there balling. He's been reliable, way more reliable than he was last year. I think it was a little bit up and down last year. I know they were kind of getting their footing with the new.
Put it on him.
With the Oh man, I know they were getting their footing with the new coach and everything, trying to figure out rotations. They still had KPJ, which got in the way a little bit last year on the Rockets team. But like Jalen Green's been balling, he's been a reliable outlet for them. And I think this is an opportunity. If they were to win, if the Hawks were to advance, if the Rockets were to advance, I think those two names will be put on spotlight. It's a big year for them.
Yeah, so I kind of agree on both the Hawks side. That's a one that I was leaning as well as really all of them. The Magic with Franz Wagner, obviously he's been playing fantastic the entire season.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have talked about him just in general. I think that he could greatly benefit there. I mean, even not even looking at the young guys. I mean, looking at the rest of the teams, all of those teams could benefit greatly. But I think one thing I think would be cool to see is if the Mavericks did win, Clay getting that first kind of taste of success, even though it's an in-season tournament, especially if we do get that Warriors-Mavericks matchup, which would be next round. That would be very cool to kind of see. I mean, obviously it would, kind of be cool, I guess, either way. Which actually maybe not, because Draymond's out and it's more of just the Steph, and they're kind of struggling anyway. It didn't really make sense how I guess it does make sense just given the standings, but I mean, I don't think they should have got in there anyway. But, I think that would be really cool to see. But, what do you guys ultimately think will be Cass, you got yours. Chris, what do you think the ultimate game will be?
The winner?
Championship game.
Game.
I think it's going to be OKC versus the Magic. With OKC taking it.
Okay. I think the Bucks continue their streak. Giannis, it's gonna be tough, especially without Paolo. I mean, it's gonna be tough to guard Giannis. So I'm gonna go with the storyline, and I'm gonna go with the Bucks and the Mavericks, and I'm just gonna go with the storyline of Clay getting it. But that could be that also could be a finals matchup. Well, I don't want to give the Bucks too much credit just yet. I did pick the Bucks to go to the finals, but
You did. You did. They're better right now. So
it's
it was
still
looking a little
hot
ugly.
pockets over there. It's still
Glenn.
Glenn. So I don't but I mean they, to their credit, I mean obviously having Giannis there is great, having Dame there is great, but they've righted the ship and after an early season swoon. So it's going to be a trade deadline is going to be huge this year. Trade deadline and the kind of buyout market is going to be big because a lot of teams could kind of separate themselves. The Cavs is going to be huge for them, trying to build some type of wing depth, big depth. I think it's going to be big for the Bucks, especially. Maybe the Knicks too, depending on how the situation goes with the center and Mitchell Robinson and stuff like that. But it's going to be a lot of teams. I mean, I think Warriors might have to get into the market if they think they're serious about trying to be a playoff team of contenders. So, and Rockets too. I think that's going to be big too for the Rockets. If they are able to get a win in this championship, that might kind of maybe accelerate their process, or maybe they stick with kind of what they're doing because they do have a lot of young talent. They're kind of how I was feeling about Cleveland a few years ago, where it's like there's so much talent. I mean, obviously, well, Cleveland, actually, that 1 year before the injuries hit with Mobley, the first year, they kind of got off to a really hot start as well. But they kind of had a lot of young talent that, you needed maybe more of that one singular superstar. So maybe if Jalen Green, he continues on this path, we'll see.
Yeah, and for me, I'm gonna stick with the Knicks being my championship. I do like the quotes that are coming out about this. I think the Knicks have spoken about it, and we just saw some quotes about Jay Will from the Thunder, speaking about how important they want to win this, how big it is for them, how they want it for the money, and I think mostly, I think they were joking about it with the Knicks, but mainly for like the people on their team that are not making as much as they do, like winning it for them, which is, at this point with those millionaires, that's the best you can honestly ask for at this point, as far as like giving their all for this. So we'll see.
Yeah,
Knicks
gonna be interesting. It's a little bit. Cat has been balling. Cat big mistake by Minnesota. Mistake by Minnesota. And if you see Anthony Edwards in Atlanta next year or the year after, don't be surprised.
The right look, it's not looking good in Minnesota.
Jalen Johnson, Rashashe. I don't know. Well, they might want to keep Jalen Johnson, I ain't gonna lie. But Rashashe, you might get shipped out for that man Edwards. We'll see. We shall see. I could definitely see. I mean, things change quickly. Things change quickly. I would love that too. I mean, Ant getting a chance to return home, and that's where he want to go. He's trying to play. He's trying to play in the city. So
for sure,
I would love to see that. But that gives us a wrap for another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast. We will see the start of the NBA Cup, the elimination round in Vegas next week. So we can get into the first couple games on our next episode, and we'll catch y'all then.
Yes, sir.
We'll be right back.